So this event is one of a two-part series of webinars for the community and voluntary sector. And I suppose that the point is to showcase good literacy-friendly practice. My name's Derv Ryan and I'm the Literacy Development and Outreach Worker in NALA. And my colleague Aoife Mulhall, our Communications Officer, is also here today. So you're going to hear about two really inspiring projects, and they took not just a literacy-friendly approach, as in they tried to be as inclusive as possible to people who might struggle with reading, writing, and everyday maths. But the projects themselves were about developing literacy at the same time. So you'll get an overview of the two projects. The first is Nourishing Literacy and Numeracy in a Digital Era, and this was run in Donegal, and it was a part of it was a cookery course. So you learn all about that, and then the best part about it as well, you'll get an insight into their learning. So some of the things that they've taken away about how they can be as inclusive as possible to people that wouldn't be confident in reading and writing, and maybe wouldn't participate in groups and projects and wouldn't have the confidence to step forward and put themselves into that. And the second project you'll be hearing about is Pavee Peck, which was a really brilliant project, bringing together a group of traveller women to share the traditional recipes and cures that travellers have over many years used and shared, and they put them together in a literacy-friendly cookbook. So we're really delighted for our speakers to joining us today. So first up is Adele McElhinney, who is the Regional Adult Literacy Coordinator in Donegal. And we have Rita O'Brien, who is the Homeschool Liaison in Donegal Education and Training Board. So I'm going to hand over now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen here. Is that working okay, guys? Yeah, super. So my name is Adele McElhinney, and I am the Regional Literacy Coordinator in Donegal ETB. And the Regional Literacy Coordinator post is attached to the Adult Literacy for Life strategy. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, the Adult Literacy for Life strategy was launched in September 2021 by Simon Harris. And the mission of that strategy is to create an Ireland where every adult has the necessary literacy, numeracy, and digital literacy to fully engage in society and realise their potential. So part of that strategy then is the Collaboration and Innovation Fund. So this is a strand of funding, I suppose, to help support that mission. And the purpose is to pay for collaborative and innovative projects that support adults with unmet literacy, numeracy, and digital literacy needs. I'm not going to delve too much into the strategy, but there is a great website there, and you can take a look and look at the cohorts that have been identified and things like that. But the reason I mentioned this fund is because this is what funded the project, the Nourishing Literacy and Numeracy in Donegal. So the fund is for organisations that work in the public, not-for-profit, community and voluntary sector. So anybody in those sectors can apply, but you do need a minimum of 2 organisations working in partnership to apply. So what we looked at in 2023, Rafo Family Resource Centre, along with the Homeschool Community Liaison Network in Donegal and Donegal ETB's Further Education Training Service, the Adult Literacy Service, along with the Adult Literacy for Life and the Collaboration and Innovation Fund, put together an application for this cooking course. And the title is Nourishing Literacy and Numeracy in a Digital Era. So it was successful, and we the 3 organisations came together and we mapped 6 locations across the county. So where there was a family resource centre, along with a homeschool liaison coordinator in a school. So you can see there that the 6 areas. So Rita is based in Moville Community College, and she's you're going to hear from her after I finish today. So she's was in charge of getting that course off the ground up there, along with the Family Resource Centre in Moville, and then the other 5 locations. So it was a 6-week course, and they ran for the same 6 weeks, 3 weeks before Halloween and 3 weeks after Halloween, at the end of 2023. It was all about cooking and healthy eating They got an opportunity. The fact that it was collaborative, and the homeschool liaison coordinator was involved, we had access to the home economics rooms in the schools, which meant we had, you know, all the equipment and the cooking stations and everything was readily available, which was fantastic. And it meant that participants got an opportunity to actually cook each week. The HSEL and the Family Resource Centre, they jointly recruited participants, and I think this is this was the secret, I think, to the success of the project. It wasn't advertised. The homeschool coordinator and the Family Resource Centre coordinator targeted people from the community who they felt would benefit. And I mean, the homeschool people are already working with families who need support, and likewise the Family Resource Centre, they have food banks and they're dealing, you know, with people who need that extra support. So there were no posters, there was no social media, it was targeted, and I think Rita will talk about this afterwards, but it was a huge success, especially in Moville with the people that signed up. So the HSEL organised the classroom and the caretaking so that the school was available, and the Family Resource Centre organised the weekly ingredients, and they managed the finance of all that. And then the Adult Literacy Service provided the tutor to run the course each week. So it was quite clear who was responsible for what each week. The course itself, you know, it was really heavily embedded with literacy and numeracy. They were reading recipes. You know, you have all your list of ingredients, you have LB, you have G, you know, knowing that that's pounds and grams. And, you know, even just looking at a recipe and thinking, well, I need to double that, or I need to half that. And then using digital weighing scales was a big thing as well. The weighing and measuring was, a lot of the students felt they weren't confident in doing that. So they were practicing that each week when they were cooking. And then they were also meal planning, you know, looking at, I suppose, budgeting as well with regards to their shopping and what they were going to cook for the week. It meant there was less food waste as well. So it was awareness of some, you know, sustainability and just general healthy eating as well. So some of the recipes that it was very much staples. They made soup and brown bread, curry, stir fry, a stew. You know, they were very much just staple recipes that a lot of them found, and Rita will be able to fill you in on this afterwards, they found, you know, that the children were eating the recipes, that they were cooking, they were enjoying them, and so it worked for the whole family. So part of the project then, each participant received a toolkit at the end. You know, we spoke about maybe barriers for this continuing at home after the course, and maybe not everybody had access to a digital weighing scales. So each participant got a toolkit, the digital weighing scales, measuring spoons, a measuring jug, an apron, and a whisk. And they were really very well received, and they were very grateful. And it meant that they could do this at home then when they had the equipment to do so. Feedback from some of the students, and Rita will tell you a bit more about this afterwards, but you know, the fear of and anxiety of weighing and measuring, you know, was gone, because they actually got to practice it. I think a lot of people had previously done cooking courses that were just a demonstration, and they didn't just find that the confidence of actually doing it, you know, while somebody was there to support them, you know, that really made a difference. They looked forward to the class every week, and they made new friends. You know, I called to Moville one of the weeks, and speaking with some of the students, they said, one lady said to me, yeah, my friend asked me would I cook the stir fry for them again on Friday if she invited her friend home from school, you know, and she'd never asked to have a friend home from school before. And then another lady wrote in and said, yeah, I'm actually cooking for my mum and dad at the weekend. I've never cooked for them before. So I mean, it was life-changing for this particular group of students. Another lady said, well, I'm saving money, because she said, I'm saving €50 a week. I'm freezing half of the curry when I cook it during the week, and then we're having it instead of a takeaway at the weekend, you know, and that's the healthier option. And just having confidence in the kitchen, you know, that cooking can be fun. So I'm just putting up an example here of some of the family learning options that might be available through your ETB. This is just for Donegal and some of the ones that we do, but I know adult literacy organisers are very open to discussing options that can be available, but this is what would be available in Donegal ETB. So how to help with homework or study skills, helping with dyslexia, IT for parents, story stacks, maths for parents. That's just some of the offering that Donegal ETB do in relation to family literacy. And then the mainstream courses that are offered, you know, we do smartphones and tablets, you know, called social IT. We have English language classes, we have reading, writing and spelling classes. We have out and about IT, where they spend 1 week in the classroom and the next week they go out and about and put the IT work that they've learned into practice. Then we have maths and communications and computers. And I suppose there are lots of other options available. So I suppose I'm just putting this up to say there's scope there to run things through your ALO in whatever area that you're in. Courses usually last 2 to 3 hours a week for 4 to 6 weeks and can be held in an ETB further education and training centre, a community centre, a family resource, a school, any other suitable venue. The groups are usually between 5 and 8. So they're small. A minimum of 5 would be needed for a group, but all the classes are free of charge to the participant. Now I've included a link. I'm not sure where everybody's from today. I know there was Tipperary mentioned and things like that, but this map is actually linked. So if this presentation has been shared after, you can click on your county and that'll take you to the adult literacy service in your area. So I am going to hand over to Rita to maybe share her experience.
The fact that it was life-changing for some of our learners, and it absolutely was. It was humbling to work with them. We had we wanted to target some of the learners in our community, and we found that was the biggest challenge. How do you target people for an adult literacy course without making them feel that they have challenges in that area? So Michael and in the Family Resource Centre and ourselves would be linked in with families, and we sort of sold it to them in terms of community, working with a group of their friends, and relationship with the Family Resource Centre here was key. We did identify our key parent, and the tutor we found was key. She brought a sense of fun and a sense of friendship to the group. And after our course had finished, they took her out and they cooked for her, which was massive for them. And there was a real cohort that had formed, and they have gone on now to do several other courses as a group, and they have been able to bring in other learners from the area to work with them. So they've gone on to do parenting courses, but they formed, as well as the literacy and the numeracy, they formed friendships for life and a support group for each other. And it was absolutely humbling. I went up one evening myself, and the sense of fun, laughter and excitement in the room, they looked forward to that course so much, and we are so grateful for the funding to do it. It was an amazing experience for all our learners. Thank you. That's, unless there's any questions, that would be my experience of it.
Thanks, Rita. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to share that learning as well, Adele. Like, such an inspiring project. And I think what is really clear in both projects, you'll hear about this as well, again, with Pavee Peck, is just the combination. Like, it's amazing when something is done so well that you can hit on numeracy, literacy, financial literacy, food waste, saving, health literacy, healthy eating. Like, it's incredible, you know. Does anybody have any questions for Adele or Rita about the project, or about their approach they took in terms of targeting, you know, people instead of promoting it on social media, or any of the types of things that they did with the group? If there are any questions, you can go on the mic, or you could pop a question in the chat box if you're more comfortable.
It sounds like a wonderful project incorporating all the different aspects. So really excellent. Just wondering, with regard to the targeted marketing towards the program. Did you get any refusals when you targeted them, and how would you have dealt with that? Thanks.
One of the parents that I did target, she just said it wasn't convenient for her at this particular time. We sort of went about it by saying, look, there's a little cookery course running. We thought there'd be other people that you might know at it. Would you be interested in coming along? And that is kind of what we did between ourselves and the Family Resource Centre, because Michael and the Family Resource Centre would have had links with those families anyway. And when we both looked at our target groups, there was a lot of overlap. Our target parents, there was a lot of overlap. So he would have taken some that he knew better, and I would have taken some that I knew better. And the way we presented was very, very casual. And as I said before, we didn't mention literacy or numeracy. It was about getting out in the evening, having a little bit of fun and something a bit different that we thought might benefit you. So there was no pressure really. One lady, as I said, wasn't able to do it, but we said, look, you can do it again, another course at another time. If it suits you, get back to us. It was very, very low key. We would have found in the past that when we looked at maybe maths or English groups, we may have had one or two target parents that would have come, but they weren't comfortable necessarily in the bigger group. And we would have lost those from the course because they just felt that they didn't fit. And this course for us was about fitting in with the other learners and with the tutor. And that's what was successful about it, I think.
Yeah, and just to add, just because I suppose I was around all of the six, I know Rita, you're one of the six, but in the other 5 areas, you know, I think the HSELs were a little bit nervous about, you know, how am I going to approach this and why am I going to say that you're being offered this course? And you know, I kind of said, let's just try it. Let's see how people respond. And they were just delighted to actually be asked to go on the course. And they end up, you know, it didn't actually, you know, sort of annoy anybody or anything like that. In some cases, I think there was difficulty with childcare. It was more down to personal circumstances that people refused. But I think from our point of view, you'll fill a cooking course 10 times over if you advertise a cooking course, but you're not going to get the correct target cohort that you want. And as Rita said, it's about, you know, making everybody feel comfortable and not having, you know, people maybe who have high level skills and beside somebody who's struggling to use the weighing scales or whatever. So that's why the recruitment worked like that. And it was about picking up the phone and giving them a call, because, you know, sending out an email, sending out a text, when you look at the statistics that, you know, the 1 in 6 that struggle to read and understand everyday text, you're going to lose them. They're not going to respond to the email or the text. It needs to be a phone call. And so overall, it worked quite well. And yes, the fear was there ringing up, you know, how, are people going to take offense to this? But it never actually came to be a reality.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mary. And I think it's a really important question, because I do think it is something a lot of people are nervous about, is approaching people about things, even if it is an integrated, what we'd call an integrated literacy approach, where it's embedded, like Adele says, into the course. It's not in lights, maybe in the name of the course or even how it's presented. But I think what was great, what you said there, Rita, it was a real balance of your approach, how you talked about it and how you presented it, and also your relationships. So I think that's what the beauty of the collaboration was, that you had relationships that were stronger with some and your colleague then the Family Resource Centre and others. So that's obviously a very smart approach. Louise, you had your hand up there.
Hi, yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. Thanks a lot. Just in terms of the resources that you used for the actual course, were they, did you come up with those resources yourself, or was it that those resources were already available and you adapted them to the course that you were doing?
Now, when you say resources, do you mean the actual room and the equipment?
No, sorry, I mean course materials.
Course materials. So the Adult Literacy for Life Collaboration and Innovation Fund allowed the budget for the resources, you know, the weekly ingredients, the printing of recipe cards, you know, all that sort of stuff that was provided through the Collaboration and Innovation Fund. So that enabled us to be able to do that. And give them the toolkit, you know, the equipment at the end of the course then when they complete it.
And was it the tutor themselves that came up with the actual?
So no, so the vet service came up with a rough so because it was running 6 locations, we wanted the 6 locations to do the same thing each week, so that you know, there was continuity across the county, and so there was a rough sort of outline. The tutor did have scope within that, you know, to look at, well, you know, maybe one group was more confident in weighing and others weren't, so within that they could focus. But I mean, they were cooking the same thing each week across the county, so there was an outline drawn up and it was very detailed, and in actual fact we scaled it back and said, look, this is what you're cooking, but you need to identify what's the biggest need in your classroom.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thanks for those questions. And there'll be probably more time at the end after we get the other presentation if anybody else has anything else they'd like to know more about. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Leah and Joanne to talk now about Pavee Peck.
So hello, I'm Leah Skipton. I'm the Adult Literacy Organiser for the City of Dublin ETB in Coolock, Darndale, and I'm just going to share my screen so we can start our presentation. Might take me a minute. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, so bear with me. Yeah, so myself and Joanne are just going to talk you through a project that we have been involved in, which has really run over 2 years, I suppose, at this stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanne and I was one of the tutors involved in both projects that we're going to talk about now. So it was the level 3, delivering the level 3 health and fitness module and the Pavee Peck cookbook.
Yes, so it started, I think, in September 2022, so it's been going on quite a while. So our second slide there is about how it started. So we were working with traveller organisations, and the original aim was to deliver QQI accredited training and HSE making every contact count training to a group of primary healthcare workers. We did have good relationships with our local traveller organisations, but we wanted to reach a larger audience in North Dublin. So we adopted an interagency approach. It was us in the ETB. We also had the HSE, and then we had the 6 traveller organisations. We were also very keen to keep a strong literacy focus throughout and to make sure that the traveller voice was represented at every part of the journey too. So we had a number of collaborations, and we asked the group themselves what they actually wanted training in. So if you just move on to the third slide there, we should be able to see a word cloud of what we came up with from one of these. So you can see that there was an awful lot of different areas mentioned, and not many of them were literacy and numeracy, but all of them required literacy and numeracy. So we then had the challenge of how to shape a course to suit the needs that had been identified. So there was a huge focus there on mental health. You can see that it's the biggest need that was identified. And then even if you look at the other needs, they would closely play into people's mental health. So we had health and well-being, addiction training, health and well-being with a space. Sometimes the word clouds don't work as well as intended, depending on who the audience are. But we decided to work together to deliver a course that hit most of these markers. Now, I don't know how much autism awareness and stuff like that we could do, but we did our best to get specialised speakers in to visit the group as well. So how it ended there on the fourth slide is with 10 traveller women, all primary healthcare workers from North Dublin, successfully completing the QQI level 3 in health and fitness and getting the Making Every Contact Count award from the HSE. And following on from that, they were so happy that they recommended it to their friends. And suddenly we had a group of 17 women of all ages. We'd women from 32 all the way up to 88. And they were collaborating to write our book, which is the reason why we're here today, Pavee Peck. And it's available online and in print. We'll share details later on in the slide. So every woman who participated got to cook and tell their story. Relationships were built up and strengthened where we already had existing relationships with our community partners. Everyone's literacy, and in particularly their digital literacy, improved due to the different teaching methods that Joanne is going to talk us through in a little while. And then it also provided like an unintended opportunity for intergenerational learning, which was identified during the course by the women themselves. So the book itself, we've now printed 700 copies. So we've had 3 print runs. So it's the most successful book that we've printed to date. Usually we're tripping up over our books. And I just want to show you a picture of the women there with their books at our celebration, which we held in December there of 2023. So you can see in there, I don't know how good the quality of the picture is. That's just on our next slide. So it was an awful lot of work. I'm not going to say it was easy. It did take an awful lot of resources. And slide number 6 just goes through how we did it. Okay. So we started with group consultation with the community partners. We also spoke to the traveller women as a group and made sure that we got feedback from them. We had 2 consultation meetings. Then we met with the individual learners, and we've called it an individual learner chat, but it was also a literacy assessment, I suppose, for us, just to figure out the literacy needs that we had in the room. And like there was a wide variety of literacy needs. So not everybody did have particularly strong literacy needs, but some people had never been to school at all. So with that in mind, and with the size of the group, we decided to go for a team teaching model. So there was always 2 tutors in the room. So we had subject experts and who were also literacy tutors, and then a dedicated literacy tutor to provide the assistance where needed. We used technology a lot, and we're going to talk about that as we go on. So in particular, we used our mobile phones and interactive whiteboards. They were great tools to have in the classroom. We also used UDL, the Universal Design for Learning. So by using that, we hopefully removed some of the barriers for our literacy people, and we tried to make everybody feel included. So we used images, videos, learning by doing, and interactive activities. We tried to avoid chalk and talk and move away from a traditional learning environment as much as we possibly could. Another big part of it was making the learning environment safe and welcoming for people, so they felt that they could express themselves, and they felt secure as a group. They had a chance to get to know their tutors. Every week we had tea and fruit and biscuits. Now the fruit wasn't so popular, so we didn't actually continue with that, but we definitely had tea and biscuits and the occasional croissant. And the tea break was built in to the group. It was a really good opportunity for team building. We'd frequent check-ins with the community partners and also with the women, and it was used like a pilot program. So we hope to build on it further. And I'm just going to hand over now to Joanne for slide number 7, where she'll talk about the UDL approach.
Good morning, everyone, again. Yes, so I suppose the UDL approach, as Leah said, is the Universal Design for Learning. So it's a set of principles that give learners the equal opportunities to learn. And I suppose its aim is to improve the educational experience of the learner by using more flexible methods of teaching and assessing. So we established quite early on in the course that written assessments would not suit some of these learners. So we used role plays, poster design, and table quizzes to help do their assessments. And we also brought in regular expert guest speakers, and which made it more flexible for the learners to do. So the guest speakers really enhanced the learners' experience. So if you'd like to go to the next slide, I'll just go into the role plays. So all of these learners were very experienced primary healthcare workers. So they had a lot of knowledge in the room, but unfortunately, some of them couldn't express this on paper. So after a few weeks, when the group had settled into the module and trust was established between us, the tutors, the learners acted through role play, which allowed them to meet the learning outcomes of the course. And it also allowed them to feel more comfortable as the written element was removed, which then ended up opening up lots of discussions about their traditional ways. So if you can move on to the next slide, I'll talk about the one particular role play that we did. So it was meeting a learning outcome for under the QQI level 3 health and fitness, and they had to design a healthy meal. So with other learners, traditionally what we would have done is given them a worksheet in which they would pick their own meal that they'd like to design. They'd write down the ingredients and the method. So it would have been really individual work, and the work wouldn't have been shared with the group, and they submit this worksheet as part of their evidence. But as I mentioned before, we realised that this was not going to work for this group of ladies. So what we did, we divided the group into smaller groups, and we had a couple of ladies that would be maybe stronger with their literacy skills, and we allowed them to come up with a meal together. They then appointed a note taker and a speaker, and they presented their performance to the group. So what we got them to do was pretend they were on Ireland AM, and they were presenting their meal to the nation. So there was great fun with this, and we then recorded this information for their QQI and submitted the video evidence. So if you move on to the next slide, I'll just give you a little talk to you about the technology aspect of it. So the technology also became a very important part of helping these learners to meet their learning outcomes. And it was also another teaching method that we used. So all of the learners had mobile phones, and Wi-Fi was available in the centre, and everyone was able to connect to the Wi-Fi. So WhatsApp was the main app that the learners generally used in their day-to-day working lives. But we also used the interactive whiteboards to show videos. And when the guest speakers came in, they used this too. And we also used the interactive whiteboard for planning the trips to help them celebrate at the end. So with this teaching method, then we enhanced a lot of their digital literacy skills too. So I'll go through another learning outcome that was helped achieved by using the WhatsApp. So they had to keep a lifestyle diary, and generally when learners do this learning outcome, they record on paper the food they ate for the day, the exercise that they done, and ways they manage stress. So they would, for these learners, then what we got them to do, we showed them how to record a voice note through WhatsApp at the end of each day, and we then got them to send it on to us. So these audio clips were then uploaded and submitted as evidence for their folder. So for the learners, although they could use WhatsApp before, they could now use it as a new communication tool to record voice notes to each other. So why did the cookbook happen? So I suppose it was during the role play aspects when we were designing the meal, and the learners described their food, which was completely different to the HSC sample meals that they were given. So they used to use basic ingredients for cooking of bread each day. And when he talked about their old ways of cooking and living, the group then also asked to do the cookbook as a follow-on, as some of the learners felt that their traditions were fading with the arrival of the more convenience foods. So as tutors ourselves, we really enjoyed listening to the stories and their traditional ways. We felt it was important for them to have their meals that they used in a literacy-friendly cookbook. And it was a very learner-led project, and we met each Monday. We talked, we listened, we cooked, and I suppose more importantly, we ate. So it was a great way of working with these ladies, and really did build strong relationships with them.
Yeah, we really did get to know some great characters during the duration of the course, and we miss them now. Monday mornings aren't the same. And we talked a little bit about cultural differences. Even things like Christmas dinners were completely different, you know. So we felt it was really important that they had the representation, and there was a feeling among the group, the older women in particular, they felt they grew up cooking and eating a certain kind of food which was no longer available on a daily basis. And the younger women wanted to know these skills, and the older women wanted to pass them on. Like daily baking of the bread was really, really important ritual for the older women when they were young. Lots of them remembered like making it from when they were about 12 upwards, like making it for their own family, and then later getting married and making it for their children and their husbands. So if we just move on to the next slide there. Actually, before we do, sorry, Derv, I just want to mention the Adult Literacy for Life Collaboration Innovation Fund is what made the book possible. We were already well underway with the Level 3 award and the MEC training, but the Innovation and Collaboration Fund really, really helped. It helped us come up with a high quality project. So it's a great one to apply for if anybody's looking for collaborators next year. We're open to ideas. So if we just move on to the next slide there. So the Pavee Peck was designed by travellers. So the name Pavee Peck is actually traveller food in the Cant traveller language, and they came up with the name themselves. So in it, there's a section where you can meet the cooks, where each of the women talk about their story. So some are stories about when they grew up and the food they ate. Other people have stories about their current lives. It just depends what they wanted to share. There's also recipes. Now, there are mostly recipes that are traditional, but there are one or two more modern recipes as well. And there was a couple of adaptations made to the traditional recipes. Then we have traditions and language. So in this, they would speak about maybe their traditional cures for people and for horses, or little stories that they might have heard as well growing up. It's all produced in a literacy-friendly way. So the idea is that somebody could pick up this book, and even with low levels of literacy, they could follow the recipes. We spent a very long time working in collaboration with the group and the oversight committee, making sure that all of the recipes were represented by graphics. So I know Adele talked about measuring things out and weighing scales and cups and things like that, but our group really wanted to use handfuls. So our recipes are kind of presented in a little bit of a different way. Now, I know hands can be different sizes, but it turns out that the ratio of the ingredients is what really matters. And believe it or not, things worked with the handfuls. We have a printed book. We also have the information available on the website, which we'll share a link with also. On the website, we have the travellers themselves reading out the recipes, and the women are reading their stories as well. So it's actually lovely to be able to go back and listen to the women's stories. Now, unfortunately, one of the older women has since passed, and it's really great that we actually captured a little bit about her story. Hopefully it's there and it's used in the future. If we just move on to the next slide, Derv. There's the book. So that's the link. There's also a little picture of the downloadable version of the book. It's not actually a hardback copy. That's just a fake. The hardbacks were unfortunately too expensive, but we went for a wipeable book, which can be used in the kitchen or the classroom. So if splashes or anything like that get on it, you can wipe it down. It's not going to be damaged, and it's wire bound as well. So if we move to the next one there. We have a little video that we'd like to show you now. So this is the graduation and the launch, and it captures some of the experiences of the women as well who took part. So some of the women who collaborated on the book are here, and they're just giving their opinions of it. So if you'd like to roll it there, Derv.
So today
Could you hear that?
we were celebrating
Yeah, great. Okay, I'll just get bigger.
the culmination of about
I might have to go into YouTube just to make it big size.
It's somewhat mortifying for Joanne and myself having to watch this with an audience. But don't listen to us, listen to the women.
Yeah.
the culmination of about 20 months of hard work between the City of Dublin ETB, local North Dublin traveller organisations and the HSC. We were launching the Pavee Peck cookbook, which is a collection of traveller recipes and stories, and we were also celebrating the graduation of 10 women from an integrated QQI health and fitness certificate course and MEC.
The health and fitness module is a component in a level 3 QQI certificate. It looks at a variety of things to do with health and fitness, as you'd expect. It covers healthy eating, meal planning, how to maintain a healthy diet, different organs in the body. So a lot of quite technical language in this program, in this module as well. But we managed to cover it all, I think, in a fairly accessible way and in a way that was engaging and also meaningful to the work that the women do in their day-to-day lives.
I came up with the book to do all the old-fashioned recipes that we used to do years ago. It was mostly all boiled food, a lot different from what we have today. Everything was made from scratch, and the food that you'd have is what you got on the day. And sure, all the recipes that are in the book, they're all from scratch, the way they cooked them.
But some of these women are in their 70s and some of them are over their 80s. So we think that is something that's very well put together, but there's the history behind it as well. And I think you're looking at a group of women from the local primary healthcare projects that had no formal education whatsoever. Some of them would have never went to school. And to be able to put a book together and to put the recipes that they were familiar with on the roadside at a camp when there was no electricity, there was no ovens, there was no weighing scales, and how to do these meals and have them in their heads for so long.
As the women said themselves, it was all healthy food. They depended on the farmer depended on them. They would do a little bit of work, a little bit of bartering. They may get a chicken, a bit of bacon, spuds, cabbage, and they literally cooked what they had. There was no like, oh, we're going to have this for dinner today. They cooked what was available, what they had.
10 learners began the course, 10 learners finished the course, and we adapted the course in a way to suit their literacy skills. So we would have done a lot of voice memos, voice recordings, and we would have done a lot of role play, quizzes, and just to make it fun and interactive.
Well, it's important because we know we don't have very much older travellers left. We have very, very few older travellers left within our community. We know travellers die much, much younger than the general population, but it's to capture them stories before these people are actually gone. So I think that's important as well, that we get that book and we have it there. We have the photographs, we have their stories, and we can always look back at it and cherish these moments that our extended family had.
I think it's very important that we work together on these projects. It's great to actually have the experience of working with other organisations. We're always trying to find new and innovative ways to bring more people into the literacy service and the adult education service as a whole.
The HSE Dublin North City and County, in conjunction with Social Inclusion, fund the 5 travel projects throughout Dublin North City and County. And that's where our involvement came initially, and then as it progressed we acted as a conduit for the members of the travelling community and the ETB to come together to work collaboratively.
10 women got the QQI certificate and did the MEC enhanced training, but there was actually 17 women involved in the cookbook. So it wasn't just the original 10, it also grew, and we brought in other people who maybe weren't interested in the QQI training but were very interested in the cookbook.
We hope that the project will inform other pieces of work going forward. It's given the primary healthcare workers on the ground great skills and support and pathways to assist individuals in the traveller community to access different types of healthcare services.
It's really important that we continue to work together as well, because I think new relationships have been built within the organisations. So we would love to take more people in to do the work. It has mostly been women up until now. We'd like to see some men maybe on our next course, and hopefully that'll happen in January.
Brilliant. So thanks so much. Leah, Joanne, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, just I suppose just to add that working in a literacy friendly manner, like it does take more effort, it does take more time, but it really does pay off. So I really feel it's worth it. And I hope I speak for all the ALOs around the country when I say, like, we are open to requests from people who want help working in a literacy friendly manner or who would like some literacy awareness training. So please get in touch. Adele is going to share the map, and hopefully we do get some contact from you guys as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I think it is so inspiring to see the great work that is being done, but what's possible as well. And like, you know, notwithstanding the very hard work that it takes, it isn't easy to do such significant projects as both of these. However, there's so much learning, like small elements that could be taken. And I'm just aware, you know, we would have people here who are working, like you said, already maybe with their local education and training boards, maybe get a tutor to come into their local organizations or a community education project. And some of you may not. And so I don't want anyone to feel intimidated by some of the literacy language or, you know, being a literacy tutor. Even some of the small things that you've heard about today, the use of WhatsApp, for example, with the diary. I mean, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? That could be integrated into a group project. That's not accredited, you know, so it's the whole spectrum of lifelong learning and adult learning, you know. It's just aware there's a lot of community development projects would have different groups doing pieces of work, but may not see the literacy elements of it as clearly. So it's great for you to share all that today. Are there any questions from anybody? And again, please just pop on the mic, or you can write it in the chat as well.
Can I ask, had you any issue with attendance or anything like that?
On and off, there could be issues with attendance, but all of the women who did the original project were primary healthcare workers, so they were actually coming from work to the project. So that really helped, I think.
And
like
on
there
the
were
Monday morning.
yeah, it was a Monday morning as well at 9:30, so it was a tough enough ask for people. We did have like a wedding, we'd some funerals, we'd read weather warnings, like you name it, it was thrown at us over the course, but we worked around it. We did.
And the Monday morning, generally everybody showed up. The women, particularly the older generation, really look forward to coming together on the Monday morning to talk about their old ways of cooking, and they were really into the cooking element of it too.
Yeah, and Pavee Point like supported the older women. They provided a bus, so I think that made it much easier for them to actually get to Coolock. So they were picked up from the site and dropped to the course.
Oh, that's really excellent. Yeah. And it shows you the benefit of the collaboration if people are taking on some of the logistics and that's not all in one service's hands. That makes a lot of sense. I thought it was interesting as well, like again, the role play, for example, like I think sometimes when we do things with the view of supporting as many people, even if they're not confident in their reading and writing, we forget that also works with people who are confident in their reading and writing. Like some of the things we change are actually, like you said, the universal design principle is everyone benefits. It's not just, I suppose, making changes just for people, I suppose, who are struggling with the reading, but the role play is probably more enjoyable for everybody, you know, as an activity.
Yeah, the value of the collaboration was there because they all saw each other's work via role play. If it had been a worksheet, they only see their own work. So it really increased the learning opportunities, I think.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that great approach of the mixed levels, because you know, Adele mentioned that could have been intimidating, and absolutely, if you're all doing the same thing and you have to do something individually, that's the nature of the course. It's best that you're similar, because otherwise someone's speeding ahead and but then in a group work project kind of focus, you can actually, the strengths are supported by other members in the group, the strengths and shadows. So that's really, it just shows you the two different ways of approach and levels as well, which is really interesting. Does anybody have any other last questions? We're coming up to 5 to 11, and you know, please do feel comfortable to ask any questions. There are no stupid questions at all, ever.
My name's Kira and I'm with BIM Dublin. I just want to say thanks so much. It's been really, really eye-opening. You know, we're always trying to develop and integrate new ideas, and just something so simple like the WhatsApp group, sending voice notes, like it's something that we all have access to. So it's really, really interesting, and just kind of the power of peer support, and it's something that we kind of tend to not tap into. So I've gotten some great ideas that I'd love to kind of implement within my own work. So I just want to say thank you so much. It's been really, really helpful, and yeah, can't wait to take the feedback on and implement it in our own work as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.